The Panthers are looking to go back-to-back.
And the Cowboys want to get another win on Sunday.
It's a Locked On NFL crossover Thursday here on Locked On Panthers and Locked On Cowboys.
You are Locked On NFL crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Panthers and Locked On let's do it again. Welcome into another edition of Locked On Panthers and Locked On Cowboys. It's a Locked On NFL crossover Thursday. I'm Julian Council, the host of Locked On Panthers. He is Marcus Mosier, the host of Locked On Cowboys. And we talk Panthers and Cowboys respectively every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching our shows here on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Crossover Thursday is presented by our friends over at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. The 2-3 Carolina Panthers welcome the 2-2-1 Dallas Cowboys inside Bank of America Stadium on Sunday afternoon. And Marcus, I'm excited to see how this one plays out as Carolina's looking to go back-to-back, get to 500, and Dallas is looking to keep up that offensive momentum. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, but I hate that stupid tie. It just makes everything so much more complicated than it needs to be. But yeah, Cowboys sitting at 500, I suppose, after 5 games. They've got an incredibly hard schedule coming up. So I don't want to say this is a game they have to win, but kind of is.
Yeah, and let's be honest, this is a game that you have to win if you're Dallas, and like for Carolina as well, when they have the Jets next week, a game where certainly you're going to feel like in Carolina's shoes after beating the Dolphins, also the dregs of the AFC East. That's a game that you need to win, and then you have Buffalo at home, kind of, because there's going to be a ton of Bills fans in the stadium, much like on Sunday. There will be a lot of Cowboy fans, which is a pretty common theme across the league, but especially here in Carolina under David Tepper. Then after that game against Buffalo, they go to Green Bay. So they're going to have to get some wins here the next 2 weeks, possibly get the 4-3 if they're going to hold on after those games against the Bills and against the Packers, respectively. But looking at storylines heading into this game for Dallas, what are some of the storylines you're looking at heading to this Sunday?
It's just, can the Cowboys offense keep it up? They scored 37 points against the Jets on the road, and that was without 54% of their offensive starters. CeeDee Lamb out, probably not going to play this week against Carolina. Your left tackle, Tyler Guyton, dealing with a concussion. Tyler Smith has got a knee injury. Cooper Beebe is on the IR list. Tyler Booker has a high ankle sprain, and yet the offense continues to put up points. Can they do it against Carolina, a defense that's not been great this year? We'll see. But right now, Brian Schottenheimer has Dak Prescott playing some of the best football of his career.
And I got to give Dak a lot of credit. And really, if we're looking at the last couple of years, you would know better than I. But when Dak's healthy, the Cowboys typically win games. When Dak's not healthy, like last year, the Cowboys, they don't win very many games, which is a lot of teams in the NFL. But that just shows just how important he is. And to see this partnership so far with Brian Schottenheimer, which I don't believe was the most inspiring hire of this past NFL hiring cycle with the head coach.
Julie, they hired him at a Friday night at like 10:30 at night, so nobody would know. Yes, nobody was excited about this at all.
But at least it's working when it comes to the offense with Dak, and then defensively, Eberflus. Oh boy,
Yeah,
we'll figure.
Well, and here's the thing with Shotty. Like, I understand it's not the sexiest name, but they brought him in because they thought he would work well with Dak in the offense, and the offense has been really good. I get concerned when head coaches are hired like as defensive specialists, and they come in and their defenses get worse. Looking at you, Aaron Glenn, right now with the Jets. So at least that part of the Cowboys has been good this season. Now, they had a stinker game against the Bears early in the year. Will that happen again against Carolina? We'll see, but this is a big one for the Cowboys offense to make sure that they stay on track.
And that's actually one of my headlines heading into this week about the stinkers, because Carolina, they had a big win a couple weeks ago, beating Atlanta 30-0. And then they put up one of those aforementioned stinkers on the road against the Patriots, losing 42-13. Now, maybe New England's good because they did go out there on Sunday Night Football and they were able to beat Buffalo. Drake May announcing himself in primetime for the first time to the NFL world. So maybe New England's actually good. I don't think they're 29 points better than Carolina, but they were on that Sunday a couple of weeks ago. So can they stop with the wild swings? I understand it's a week-to-week league, but it can't be week to week to the point where you're winning 30-0, winning 42, losing 42-13, down 17-0, then coming back and winning that game. And also, Marcus, they've played 5 games this season, and they've been down by 3 scores in 4 of those games, and somehow are sitting here at 2-3.
And I think if you're a Panthers fan, that's what you want to see is more of a complete game. Like Bryce Young, and again, you can tell me if I'm wrong, he really struggled on Sunday until they got down. And then he came back and actually played pretty well in the second half. So if you're a Panther fan, you just want to see a complete game. Luckily for the Panthers, this Cowboys defense, they'll give you some stuff on on that side of the ball. So I would expect this to be one of the better Bryce Young games that we see.
Yeah, and you would hope too. And you're right. He came out there, had one of the worst fumbles you'll see, just lost the ball. I guess he was spooked by Bradley Chubb. It is spooky season here in October, so maybe he was just going with the theme with that fumble. The interception was just an overthrow targeting Xavier Legette. We've seen that in the past, but he did make some big plays to win that game. It was a 4th down in the first half where he had to evade the rush and find Tetairoa McMillan, who's been awesome so far. If they turn the ball over on downs, I believe Miami gets the ball at their own 44, and they were able to score on those relatively short fields on Sunday. So that might have been a 20-0, 24-0 hole that Carolina's in, and they're not digging themselves out of it. He made some plays there on the final drive where he found Legette. He was able to find Jimmy Horn Jr., who got his debut on Sunday on 4th down, found Mitchell Evans. So he made some bad plays, but also made some good plays. We had the full gamut of Bryce Young, but another one to look at here too, just with the passing game potentially being a big Bryce Young game, is Jalen Coker. Dave Canales told us earlier in the week that they're going to open up his practice window on Wednesday. That's now happened. We'll see if he's able to make his debut this season, as he will fit in nicely with Legette, who was able to bounce back after 2 rough performances to start the season, with McMillan, who's looked really good. Maybe finally having all 3 of his top receivers will make things go for Bryce, or he'll have the struggles and people will have a referendum on him yet again, because it can never just be a game here in Carolina when we're evaluating Bryce Young, it feels like.
Yeah, I'm part of the fantasy community that is a big cokehead. I love Jalen Coker. Can't check out Locked On Dynasty. We call them, we're all cokeheads over there. I'm excited to see the offense. I'm excited to see the Cowboys defense. That actually, they felt like they put some good things on tape this week against the Jets. Was it a perfect performance? Absolutely not. But they got pressure. Dante Fowler had a really good game. The corners seemed to settle in a little bit. Was that a mirage? Or was it a sign of things to come? I don't know. But this is an offense that hasn't been super dynamic. And I want to see the Cowboys put together again. If you can hold them to like 24 points, that's a huge win for Dallas. That's kind of how low the bar is right now for Cowboy fans.
And that's how many points Carolina's averaging so far this season. We'll see how that plays out. And there are some matchups that you just brought up there, Marcus, and we'll go over some of the matchups that can change the game on Sunday. I'm Julian Council, the host of Locked On Panthers. He's Marcus Mosier, one of the hosts of Locked On Cowboys. We'll be back here in just a moment on this Locked On NFL Crossover Thursday. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail. From the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery, you can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls, with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Back here on this Locked On NFL crossover Thursday edition of Locked On Panthers and Locked On Cowboys. Panthers facing off against Cowboys at home on Sunday, hoping to get to 500, not 300, get to 500. And then the Cowboys, well, this is a game they got to win, because their schedule moving forward is not the easiest, and that's life being in the NFC East. But taking a look at this game, Marcus, what are some of the matchups you're looking at that you think could change the game and swing it into the Cowboys' favor?
Usually what we do is like a wide receiver versus a cornerback, or a defensive lineman against the tackle, but I'm going to change things up a little bit. Let's go to the running back position. Rico Dowdle, who is likely to start in this game for Chuba Hubbard, who is dealing with an injury right now, versus Javonte Williams. Now, I am a huge Rico Dowdle fan. I thought the Cowboys were crazy to let him walk in free agency, and learned a little bit over the weekend that Dallas didn't even offer him a deal. Like, they had no interest in bringing him back. And I thought that was wild because, I don't get it. He was so good in the second half of last year once the Cowboys finally gave him touches and not the corpse of Ezekiel Elliott. But he was awesome Sunday against Miami, running for over 200 yards. Meanwhile, the Cowboys signed Javonte Williams, who I thought was pretty washed up. Could not have been more wrong. He's, I believe, first in the NFL in rushing yards. He's second in success rate. He's averaging over 5.5 yards per carry. I'm curious to see between these two running backs who performs better, because likely whatever running game is better on Sunday, their team will probably win.
Yeah, absolutely. And hell, that's what football in general, man. You win the line of scrimmage, you win rushing the ball, you're typically going to win games. And yeah, Rico was just awesome on Sunday. And a lot of fans have been asking me, what's up with the Panthers running game? You're bringing in Rico Dowdle, who rushed for 1,000 yards, was 6th in rushing success rate among backs who had at least 100 carries last year. And right ahead of him, ranked 5th in rushing success rate, was Chuba Hubbard. You had both those guys coming off of career years. You're thinking that this is going to be a really good backfield. But so far in the season, whether it's been Carolina being behind, having some offensive line injuries, they weren't having the kind of success you expected on the ground until Sunday, when Rico was busting run yards of like rushing attempts of 53 yards, where he actually said in the locker room, Marcus, after the game, that he called that play. He told Brad Idzik, the OC here in Carolina, hey, Brad, we don't usually run inside zone, but I want to run this play, so call it. He called it, and he ran for 53 yards. And Dave Canales talked about on Monday, he's like, yeah, Brad relayed it to me. I said, okay, if you're going to ask for this play, you better make it work. Well, they made it work. Maybe guys should run a little bit more inside zone, Dave, after listening to Rico and seeing how that played out. And Javonte Williams, I will always be a Javonte Williams fan, being a North Carolina Tar Heel fan as I am. So really happy for Javonte, who I thought would be good in the NFL. Obviously biased, but I thought he would be a good player because of his ability to break tackles, which I've seen him do so far in Dallas. But the torn ACL he suffered in Denver kind of set him back. Wasn't a Sean Payton guy. And now he's back in Dallas, where we know, they like to run the ball. So he fits in perfectly there with the Cowboys. So that absolutely is a really good matchup to look at, even if it's not those guys going up against each other as far as offense versus defense.
And I've got another one. It's same. It's wide receiver versus wide receiver. Tetairoa McMillan versus George Pickens. So if you rewind to the draft last year, the Cowboys loved McMillan. That was going to be the pick at 12. They were convinced that he was going to be available. They ran through all these mock draft scenarios, and every time they did it, McMillan fell to them at 12. And they were so excited about the possibility of pairing CeeDee Lamb and McMillan together for the next 5 or 6 years. And then Carolina, we thought was going to take a Georgia defender. Nope, they take McMillan instead. And now, the Dallas scrambled. They really needed a receiver, but they didn't love any other receivers in this class. So as soon as the draft ended, within a couple days, they make the trade for George Pickens. And so far, Pickens has been a revelation for them. He only caught 2 passes against the Jets, but one of them was a long touchdown on Sauce Gardner. He already has 5 touchdowns this year, which matches his career high for a single season. I'm going to be fascinated to see which of these 2 receivers, these number 1 receivers in this respective game, can beat their matchup, because just like Rico Dowdle and Javonte Williams, whatever one of these receivers performs better, I got to believe their teams are probably going to win.
And actually, that's a matchup that I have, except I'm looking receiver versus corner, because I am very curious to see how Tetairoa McMillan going up either against DaRon Bland or Trevon Diggs, along with Xavier Legette, who came back last week, had a touchdown. Dave Canales said after the game that he was like tearing up. He was emotional because there was a lot of heat on Xavier Legette after the way he performed the first 2 weeks of the season. He missed 2 weeks because of a hamstring injury. I thought it could be beneficial for him just to have a little reset, and we did see that. He only had 2 catches, but one's a touchdown. Another one comes on a critical game-winning drive there in the fourth quarter. He made an impact like you wanted to see. I want to see him take another step forward against what I think is a really good pairing of cornerbacks that you have down there in Dallas. And then with T-Mac, like, you've been the man. Like, you got your guy XL back, possibly getting Jalen Coker back this week. You're going to be the alpha in this room still. I'm really excited to see what he's able to do and how he does stack up against a guy like George Pickens, who's extremely talented. You question his judgment sometimes, his attitude at other times, but the guy can play and kind of feels like a perfect Dallas Cowboy when you bring up even some of the things just with him and what comes with being around George Pickens, but outstanding player going back even to his days at Georgia, where guy probably gave Kirby a headache, which a lot of those guys have in recent years. But you are right. I don't think any of us expected Carolina to take McMillan, but looking at the injuries they've had and the fact that they trade away Adam Thielen, they really needed to take T-Mac, and it's worked out really well for them so far.
It's a good reminder just to take the best players available on your board, because you just never know how things are going to play out. And if you do that over and over again, that's how you build a good team. One other one that I wanted to mention really quickly, Derek Brown, who is the Panthers' best defender by a mile against the Cowboys' interior offensive line. So we mentioned at the top of the injuries, no Cooper Beebe. There's Cowboys starting center. Brock Hoffman will be there. I don't anticipate Tyler Booker playing in this game. So that means TJ Bass, another undrafted free agent at right guard. And then at left guard, we'll see on Tyler Smith. He's been dealing with knee tendonitis. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys give him one more week to kind of heal up. And that means they're going to have to try to find a way to slow down Derek Brown. And he can wreck a game. And now the Cowboys' interior offensive line has played well this year, even with the injuries. But that's a guy that you're worried about on every single snap.
Yeah, and you should be. And he's added a little pass rush into his bag, had a sack on Sunday, and he did tell the staff, too, that he wanted to be in on more pass rushing situations. Now, a couple years ago when he was a Pro Bowler, he played like 90% of the snaps. So it's not like he came off the field, but he really wanted to be in those spots where they now have Ashawn Robinson. They brought in Bobby Brown III, Turk Wharton, who missed the game last week with a toe injury. They brought those guys so they could rotate more around DB and also give him a chance to get his breath and be fresh throughout the game. But yeah, he's a dude, man. And every week he's just ragdolling somebody. And unfortunately this week, it may be the hometown kid, Brock Hoffman, who's from Statesville, right up the road there on I-77. Maybe a rude awakening back home or a rude welcome back home here in Carolina on Sunday. But you did tell me, though, before we started recording this, that Dallas did a pretty good job against Quinnen Williams. And I would argue, as far as pass rushing ability, Quinnen's a better player as an interior defensive tackle. Now, run stopping ability, I think that maybe Derek has the upper hand there, but they did have success, right?
Brock Hoffman and TJ Bass combined allowed 0 pressures last week against the Jets. If you look at the last 2 weeks, 1 combined pressure between those two guys. I know they're undrafted free agents, but these are 2 of the better backup offensive linemen in the league. And honestly, if you told me that they were going to be starters next year, I wouldn't blink an eye at it at all. Like, I think these guys are really good. They are. It's a luxury for the Cowboys to have this kind of interior offensive line depth. That doesn't mean they're going to shut down Derek Brown, but you don't go into this game fearful of every snap, because these guys have played a lot, and when they play, they've played well.
And really, it feels like in the NFL nowadays, with the lack of just offensive lineman development and just depth across the league, you're really only as good as your backup offensive lineman at times. And you mentioned it early on the show where even with all the injuries they've had, they've still been humming offensively because of guys like Brock Hoffman. And even Carolina, while the offense hasn't necessarily reached the level that they want to get to, having Cade Mays filling in for Austin Corbett, he's been really good for them. Brady Christensen finally got his opportunity, and he helped them road grade on the right side of the offensive line there on Sunday. And you still have Ike Ekwonu, they have Damian Lewis and Taylor Moton. So the Panthers been able to overcome some of those injuries. Dallas has as well. And it should be a very interesting matchup on Sunday between the Panthers and the Cowboys. And let's get into the 3 things that these teams need to do. For Carolina, I say this often on the crossover, there's more than 3 things that they typically need to do to get things done. But if they're not able to put themselves in a hole, they may only need to do these 3 things to win. So we'll talk about some of the keys to victory here in just a moment on this Locked On NFL Crossover Thursday edition of a Locked On Panthers and Locked On Cowboys. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. It's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included. So the price you see is the price you pay. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. I love zone deals too. Pick the section, Game Time picks the seat, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football and baseball and literally everything that you watch sports-wise even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, back here on this Locked On NFL crossover Thursday edition of Locked On Panthers and Locked On Cowboys, presented by our friends over at PrizePicks. Again, guys, download the PrizePicks app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Julian Council, host of Locked On Panthers, Marcus Mosier, the host of Locked On Cowboys. Looking at this game on Sunday, Marcus, the Cowboys are 3.5 road favorites. Now, it will be on the road. It will be in Charlotte, but there will still be plenty of Cowboy fans in the stands here at Bank of America Stadium. So we'll see what kind of advantage that gives him, and if Carolina can keep those fans quiet, get their fans on their feet, and make this a hell of a ball game, which I think it could be. I think there could be a shootout. But looking at it, three keys. What are the 3 keys to victory for Dallas on Sunday?
Number one, Dak Prescott's got to play at an MVP level. And I know that's going to be really hard for any quarterback to sustain that level of play game in and game out. But this is an incredibly flawed team with a lot of injuries right now. And they're asking their superstar quarterback to be a superstar. And to his credit, he's done it almost every single week. So if he can play at a high level, he's going to give them a great chance to win. You've got to figure out a way to get at least a couple turnovers on defense. They're not going to stop Carolina on every possession. They're not going to hold them to 10 points. Get a couple takeaways. Dallas got a strip sack, a fumble against Breece Hall in week 5. They were able to stop the Jets twice on 4th down. Those are big momentum changing plays. If the Cowboys can do that, I think they'll be just fine. And the last thing, and we say it every week, is they've got to win the special teams battle. And that is a part that the Cowboys have done really well with Brandon Aubrey, who might be the best kicker in the league. They've got one of the better return units. With the defense still being so iffy, if you can win the offensive phase of the game and special teams, that's how you steal a game in Carolina.
Yeah, I think that's probably why Dallas is so good offensively, is all they got to do is get to the 50, and there's 3 points right there on the board. Just insane.
Well, they were during the broadcast on Sunday, they were saying, you start the ball at the 35 on a touchback, right? You need just 1 first down and you're in Brandon Aubrey range. And that's, it's a little exaggerated, but not really, right? Like,
no.
If you can get 15, 16 yards, you are technically in field goal range. And that does help the Cowboys offense quite a bit, knowing they have that in their back pocket.
Absolutely. And I know that they're probably going to vote out the tush push next offseason. I'm curious what they're going to do about these footballs, man, because these things, they are juiced. And if guys are able to kick the field goals that they are from the length, like maybe we've lost the plot a little bit. It's cool to see, but it's like, come on.
Maybe make them kick with their non-dominant leg, I guess, right? Maybe a little more interesting.
Just give them the balls like they used to before the game. Don't do what you're doing now. This is crazy, but it's been fun to watch. I will say that. As far As for Carolina, they got to keep up with Dallas offensively. I don't think this is going to be a defensive grinded out kind of game on Sunday. Dallas is averaging 34. Carolina's averaging 24. The Panthers are going to have to, sorry, Dallas is averaging 30. Carolina's averaging 20. But Carolina's going to have to find a way to get to that 30 range. And you look at the Cowboys so far this season, looking at EPA, number one offensive EPA. Dead last defensively in EPA. So thank you to our friends over at True Media for those stats. So very good on offense, very bad on defense, which should offer opportunities for Carolina on Sunday. Bryce Young, when he turns the ball over, the Panthers, they lose. They're 2-18 when Bryce Young has turned the ball over. Now, he did it twice on Sunday. They were able to overcome that. Only the second time that's happened. The other time was last year against New Orleans. I don't think against this Cowboys team, with the way Dak Prescott is playing, they're going to be able to overcome 2 turnovers, especially in the first half, and another 17-0 hole. So Bryce has got to take care of the ball like he did against Atlanta in that win and against New England, even in that blowout loss. And in the last one, we talked about it earlier, the matchup between Rico Dowdle and also between Javonte Williams, run the ball. Dallas has not been great against the run so far. They're actually dead last in success rate against the run defensively so far this season. Carolina has been just okay, right on the fringe of top 10 so far this year, even though they've not necessarily had the success that a lot of people expected up until Sunday, where Rico ran for 206 yards. He said, buckle up. He's ready to go. Brian Schottenheimer has responded and said he will be buckled. So that will be a very interesting thing to watch play out on Sunday. So those are the 3 things I have for Carolina. And of course, the other take care of the quarterback and all the other stuff we always talk about, special teams. But those are my keys for on Sunday.
It just feels like we're talking about a game that should be like 34-28 or 34-21, which inevitably means we're going to get like a 10-7 slugfest, during this 1 p.m. slot. We'll see, but everything points to this being a shootout.
Yeah, absolutely. And hold on. We got FanDuel right here. What's the over under is only 49.5. So
only.
That feels low to me.
Low.
Yeah. So we'll see how that all plays out. But Panthers welcoming the Cowboys on Sunday. Do you have any prediction? My only prediction is take the over.
There you go. That's my prediction as well. I think we're going to see a lot of points, and I would not be surprised if this is a game where maybe Carolina builds a little bit of a lead early, and we see Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offense fighting back. Can't wait. Should be a fun one.
Yeah, and I talked to Panther fans about this last week. We'd find out who this team was, a little bit more about them based on how they responded after the loss to New England. Didn't look great at the beginning against Miami. They came back, were able to win that game. And now with this one, Dave Canales told us back in the spring that it would take 4 to 6 weeks to figure out who this team is. Well, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. You had 3 games on the road out of the first 4 weeks. Now you're going to have 3 home, 3 away. And if they get to 500 or they're 2-4, we'll know who this Panthers team is. So I'm very excited to see how this game plays out. And I will be there on Sunday, and I'm expecting, and I'm looking forward to a shootout. Yeah, that might mean people here in Carolina are like, Jero Vero, got to fire him. But sometimes it's fun to watch points on the board, because Lord knows here in Carolina, there have been plenty of times where points were not going on the board for them offensively.
There's probably a game between 2 non-playoff teams, so let's at least have fun, right, Julian?
Absolutely. Definitely one team I know for sure won't be a playoff team. Sorry, Carolina Panther fans. Think there's a lot they still got to figure out. But for Dallas, we'll see. Jerry still believes, which means he's probably only a few days away from doing something stupid. So we'll see how it plays out on Sunday. But that's going to wrap up this Locked On NFL crossover Thursday edition of Locked On Panthers and Locked On Cowboys, again presented by our friends over at Prize Picks. Be sure to check us out here on YouTube. Subscribe and follow us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast as well. And check out Locked On NFL, where you got Tyler the Madman rolling, giving you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Again, Julian Council, Locked On Panthers, Mark Mosier, Locked On Cowboys. As I always tell y'all, be safe, be happy, and be whole. And we will talk to y'all on Friday.